Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
What's up, Burn Nation? Amber Burke here. I am the Chief Operating Officer with Burn Bootcamp, and I am ecstatic to host the Burn Bootcamp podcast today. We have a very special guest. If you haven't heard, Burn is launching its second book. I have a preview here. We're really excited about it. But what's really special about this book is that we've invited stories to come in from our members and our trainers across Burn Nation. And I'm very lucky to have Miss Jessica here with us today. So just to give you a little intro on Jessica, she is the lead trainer at Burn, Kenosha, Wisconsin. She's a mom of 3, and her story really begins with her family and her dad as an inspiration. She's very dedicated to why. Why are you training? Why are you showing up for your kids every day? Why is it important for you to achieve goals and set goals? And we're going to talk about that. It's a big part of her story, but just really excited to have you here with us today, Jessica. And,
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Anything I missed in that? You want to? Any shout outs we need to start off with?
Oh gosh, don't do that. I don't want to miss anybody. Anyway.
Yeah. Everyone. She's here for everyone. Cool. Well, let's get into it. All right. So the story in the book really talks about your dad and the inspiration that he was for you and how you pulled how he lived his life and how fitness was a part of his journey. And that was inspirational to you. So tell me a little bit about that and how that drives you today.
Okay. So my dad was always into fitness, always doing races, events, things like that. And when we were growing up, he was always doing marathons, half marathons, things like that. He was always racing. And that's just the way he lived his life. And he enjoyed it, and it brought him passion, and it made him happy. And then once he got into his 40s, then he decided that running was getting kind of boring.
I would agree with that. No offense to you runners out there.
He wanted something else to do. So, he's like, I'm going to try triathlons. Then I can swim, then I can bike, I can run.
Natural progression.
Right. And so he dabbled into the Ironman, and he completed 16 Ironman.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So from when to when? Like about how long of a time span was that?
I mean, he started in his 40s and he passed in his 60s, so in about 20 years. So he was doing at least one a year.
Dang.
At least one a year. Yeah.
And you told me he qualified for Kona.
He did. Yeah, he did Ironman Wisconsin, and he had to finish in the top 3 of his age group that year to qualify. And he qualified for Kona and went out and finished and did an amazing job. It was really cool.
And a lot of you got to go, right?
We did. Yeah, I think there was like 17 of us that went to see him.
You showed up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did. We had T-shirts and all the things.
Of course we did. Yes. That's how we roll up. That's amazing. That's so inspirational, and I can definitely see how that just, takes it to a whole nother level. So, take us back to the beginning of your health and fitness journey. So it's 2018, mom of 3, juggling all the things, mental capacity, physical capacity, everything is just, it's there. So tell me a little bit about, what's your mindset and how are you just recognizing something's got to change?
I was actually in Greece on a vacation with my husband.
Nice.
And I got a text from the owner of the gym where I was working out, and he said, we're closing as of tomorrow.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, great. And I was somebody that had to work out every day just for my mental health. It just set my day. If I didn't work out, my husband would be like, did you work out today?
He could tell.
He knew.
He was like, did you take your medicine today?
Yes.
I love that.
And so I knew I needed to find something else.
Yeah.
And a friend had tried Burn. We had just opened, and she said, I think you'd really like it.
Yeah.
And so, guys, I tried a trial, went in, and I went in, I guess, with a different mindset. I wasn't nervous. When I went in, I was comfortable because I was used to working out.
Sure.
But I remember walking in and the music's pumping and there's women doing these burpee things. And then they're like high-fiving all over the place. And I'm like, okay, this is different. It's good. I was used to working out by myself, not in a group.
Yeah.
And Max was my trainer for that camp, and I just jumped right in. I met a bunch of people that day, and I remember leaving that camp, and I was wrecked. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I felt so empowered. I felt, like I said, I was missing something, and I felt like I was seen there.
Yeah.
That they recognize, oh, here's a mom. She's got 3 kids. She's still making time for herself, that she needs this time. And I left knowing, like, okay, this is my place.
Yeah. I think
I want to be here.
It's interesting because you realized that you didn't know that you weren't seen. You didn't know that you needed those high fives. You didn't realize, kind of how in the thick of it you are until it's like a pause and a break, and you show up, you step on the floating floor, all these things happen to you, and it's so invigorating and energizing, and you go, dang, I didn't even know I needed this.
And there's so many people around
Yeah.
you, that want the same thing. And I got, you go in and you feel nervous. You feel like, okay, are they looking at me? Am I doing it right?
Yeah.
And I never felt that way.
Yeah.
Somebody gave me a high five right off the bat, and I was like, oh, sweet,
Okay.
okay.
Instant friends.
Yeah, right?
I love this.
Yeah, so it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So once you made the decision to choose Burn Boot Camp, because you clearly did, tell us a little bit about just the next, couple of months. How did you go from, single worker outer at a regular gym to now I'm in Burn Boot Camp and I've got all of this huge community around me, but it seems like you needed more. What happened next?
Yeah, so I signed a membership, I think, within my first couple days. And I'm like, yep, this is for me. And I think it was about maybe like 6 months of working out there.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, I want to be part of this family. I really liked what they stood for. I liked what Burn encompassed, confidence. And I remember seeing Max and kind of going up to him, and I just put a bug in his ear, and I was like, hey, I would be interested in maybe just supporting you on the floor.
Yeah.
I would just like to get to make relationships with people, and I want to be their cheerleader. Like, I want to encourage them, and that's just part of my personality.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. And gosh, it was in a couple weeks. And our franchise partner, Shawnee, came up to me and said, little birdie told me that you were interested in being on the floor. And so Max always jokes that I was the longest person as a support trainer before I trained. And I remember I was at Target shopping. He sent me a text and said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, oh, gosh.
How do I respond?
And I'm like,
did you have your read receipt on so he knew you got it?
I don't know. I didn't have an Apple phone back then. I was not an Apple user.
Okay.
But yeah, I got his text. I said, nothing. He said, come and train some camps, lead your people. Nice. And so he kind of pushed me a little bit and got on the mic, trained my first camp, and I had such a full cup feeling. I knew I was meant to be a trainer, even though I told them over and over, I do not want to be a trainer. I do not want to put a mic on. I'm never going to train a camp. That's not what I'm here for. And now I'm lead.
Yeah. So tie that a little bit for me into your why, because it's almost, I think, we have a habit of sometimes resisting the things that we know are really good for us. And it sounds like you did that for just a little bit. It was kind of like, man, this community is amazing. Max is supporting me. I'm really enjoying it. But sometimes it really does take that maybe forceful invitation to take that leap. But
voluntold.
Yes,
right?
You're voluntold. But your why was already there. There was already a reason. And I love that he said, come train your people. And because he knew, I think he could probably see that when you were on the floor as a support. So tell me a little bit about how your why for you, kind of seeing your dad being influenced by that, stepping onto the floor as a member, stepping onto the floor now as a trainer. Tell me a little bit about that evolution. And so now when you're on the mic, how is that inspiring and how are you leading your people?
Yeah. So we always ask our members, especially our day ones that come in, what's your why? Why are you here? Why did you walk in the door?
Yeah.
And I tell them all the time, we're not going to be motivated to work out every day.
Yeah.
We have to have that discipline. And if you know your why and you know your reason why you're doing this, you're going to show up every day for yourself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue to show up for my dad. The brain disease that he was diagnosed with is called primary progressive aphasia. Okay. And it affects your recall of nouns, people, places. For example, if there's a tablecloth on the table, he knew the word table, he knew the word cloth, but he couldn't put them together.
Got it.
So it kind of starts that way, and it affects your memory first, and then eventually your gross motor skills. And the cool thing about it is he decided to be a research part of a research study at Mayo Clinic.
Wow.
Because it's a very rare brain disease, and
Right.
we caught it early.
Yeah.
And so he was studied up there, and one thing they found was that his symptoms of his disease were actually delayed because he was so physically active.
Wow.
That if he hadn't been so physically active, we probably would have seen the disease sooner.
Sure.
So that was my why right off the bat.
Yeah.
You know, if we find out that this disease is hereditary, you can bet I'm going to be in that gym working out every day, delaying my symptoms as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And, you know, he started a running club for his middle school, and he wanted kids to have that empowerment, that confidence, which Burn does as well.
Yeah.
You know, so I felt like if he did that and he stepped out of his comfort zone and started something like that, I could do the same thing. And, you know, I want to believe that when I step on the floor, he's with me, you know, and that he'd be proud that I'm impacting lives the way he did.
Yeah.
And so I just remind myself every day how proud he would be that I'm inspiring people. Because when people tell me I'm an inspiration to them, I'm just like, I don't see why.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a mom. That's it. And so I know he'd be proud of me. And that's kind of my drive. That's my reason for showing up every day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Man, there's a lot of parallels there. You
There
know,
is.
if you just thinking how I love when you're watching him take steps to get out of comfort zone and to bring those kids into something that he already enjoys. And, you know, some of them are probably like, meh, but then he's inspiring others to really grab onto something and maybe have something that they will carry throughout the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the kids were kids that struggled in school.
yeah.
And it gave them an outlet and something to be proud of. And he actually had a couple kids graduate from middle school, continued to be runners, and went to college with scholarships.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was because of the running club that he started.
That is
So,
amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That is awesome. And, you know, I think you started as, you know, when you stepped on to the floor as a member, you were a mom. We're all juggling all the things. And it's, you know, kids juggle a lot of things too. And so the
They do.
parallel that I'm hearing is just you're taking that and you're showing up onto the floating floor and you're giving someone that opportunity to know that I can do this. I can lift that weight. I can do that burpee.
It's not too late.
Yeah,
you know?
I can mod. I can really show up, you know, for myself. And I think that there's a permission there to do that. And I think, you know, it sounds like as you're leading as a trainer on the floor that whether you know it or not, you are more than just a mom. And that's where the
thank you.
inspiration comes from.
Thank you.
They're looking at you and they're like, how, she went from a member to that. Maybe it's not their dream to do that, but I'm sure it's inspiring in other ways. So
Thank you.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
So it doesn't stop there because once you become a trainer at Burn, there's more. There's always more. Our visionary Devin
You always
Klein,
want more.
there's always more, and we love that. So athlete games. So if you're not aware, if you're listening to the Burn Bootcamp podcast for the first time, part of our culture for our trainers is to have athlete games. And this is where we start with programmed workouts and protocols that are trained. And we have regional athlete games. So there's qualifications and you have to place at a certain level for those regional athlete games. And then we have our main event that happens at our Lake Norman location in Cornelius, North Carolina. And you stepped into that.
I did.
Tell me about that. I'm
did.
excited. Like, I don't get to do this. I'm not a trainer, but
Yeah.
I watch it with envy every time.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. So my dad passed away in March.
Okay.
And, you know, usually the workouts come out about that time. And
Yes.
it had always been on my radar. But I was in a rough place. I was grieving. You know, he had just passed and he was my person. We had a really close relationship. And so I did a lot of reflecting and thinking, you know, can I do this? You know, physically I felt like I could.
Yeah.
But mentally, can I? Am I
Yeah.
strong enough to do it?
Yeah.
And so I decided that I would start training for the games because you have the workout.
Right.
So started training for the games, and then I decided, you know, I don't need to sign up until midnight on whatever the day is. You know,
Did you
I
have people texting you also? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do this?
Yeah, I had questions a lot.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you decide? Are you finally doing it?
Yeah.
We know you're going to do it. Did you sign up? So
We don't pressure anyone around
Never,
here. It's gentle.
Never. So yeah, after working out and working through it, I kind of asked myself, like, what would my dad want me to do? And, you know, even though he's done these huge feats, like, he's run the Boston Marathon. He did Kona. He went to Switzerland. I know he would want me to do what made me happy.
Yeah.
Whether that was doing it or not.
Yeah.
My mom always said, I said, what do you think Dad would want me to do? And she said, he'd want you to be happy, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so I decided, you know what, let's go for it. I'm at that point, I was 44 years old, and I'm like, I'm not getting any younger.
No.
It's not going to get any easier.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
If anybody knows how to do that, drop it in the comments. Please let us know.
So I did it the first year. The regional games were in lacrosse. That year was the year, it was before we had the Masters division.
Yes.
So I did the games. My goal was just to finish, and I did that, and I was proud. And, then the next year, it was like, okay, am I doing this again?
Which I feel is harder because now you know what to expect. It's
Yeah.
different when you're like, I know it's going to be hard, but I don't know quite what it's going to take. And,
Right.
But now you know.
And I had another layer. Like when I did the lacrosse games, my dad was still here, even though he was struggling.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the games in a different light because now he's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I thought about it and I decided I was going to go for it. The real push was the Masters.
Yeah.
It was 40 and up, and I was like, okay, I don't have to compete against
These are also my
23-year-olds.
people.
Yes, these are my people. These are my people.
I feel that.
The one that have the knee pain. I got you.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it, and Kenosha was the host location. That was another push for me to be able to compete
Your
on my
people
floor
were there.
with my people, cheering me on. Like that was a big deciding factor.
Yeah.
So I did it, and my goal wasn't to place. I just wanted to prove to myself that at one of the hardest times in my life, I could do something hard.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel like it had a different drive for you? Do you feel like you approached it a little bit differently?
I did.
Whether you recognized it in the moment or even now looking back?
Yeah, I do. I do think he was there. I think he was pushing me. But there were times where I was like, you know what? Maybe this is just too much. Maybe I need to take the time to just grieve and be sad.
Yeah.
Because there were workouts where there were tears.
Yeah.
Sitting on the floor and wondering, am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But he was definitely a force to be reckoned with that. So, so I completed it, and then
Well, you didn't just complete it.
I didn't just complete it.
Because that's not what we do. We keep pushing the bar.
We do.
So,
yes. So
tell me
I
about
completed it,
your
and then
placement.
they said that they were going to announce the finalists at like 8:30, and I was training at that time. And so I silenced my phone, silenced my watch. I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Finished the camp. And my team didn't do anything different, didn't come running out. So I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
then my best friend at the time came running through the door. And she had already worked out at 4:45 that morning. And I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And she hugged me and said, you made finals.
Ah,
And I was like, oh my God, really? And then I checked my phone and it was blowing up and it was super
Yeah.
exciting. I did not expect that. But again, I think I had some help along the way to get there.
Yeah.
Yep. So then placed in the top 16, went to nationals.
Yes.
Went out there, ended up doing pretty good.
Yeah. Pretty good. She was top 10.
I finished 9th.
Hey, listen, top 10. I mean, and, for those of you out there that do attend Burn Boot Camp, our trainers they're top 1%. I mean, and to go up against that group and be that competitive is just an incredible testament
The
to not
women
only your.
I competed with were incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
We're motivated by what we see, by what we hear, by the people around us. And it just seems like the incredible amount of discipline that I can imagine it took your dad to train for 20 years to compete in 16 different events at various levels is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And you're doing it also with your family, with your kids, and you're fitting that in because your schedule is very different. You're not just training camp or attending camp and that's it. You're training camp, you're attending camp, you're being a mom, you're doing all the things, and then you're finding time to fit these workouts in too.
Yeah, it was a lot of balance, and my family was super supportive. I trained, and then in the times that there's not camps, I was doing my games workouts, and I still wanted to do camp with my people and say hi, and so it was a lot. But the moment I stepped on that floor in Lake Norman and was like, wow, I'm here and I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And said a little thing to my dad before I started and talked to him at the end, and just the women I competed with were so motivational. And even when we were in the back room stretching and getting ready, I was able to share my story with a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, to just have him there as part of it. And finishing where I did was a bonus. I just wanted to prove to myself that, at the hardest year that I've had that I could do something that extraordinary.
Yeah, and it definitely is. Yeah. What was your favorite moment at Athlete Games? Does anything stick out or?
Yeah. So it's funny because we're doing level up games soon at our gym.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just,
if you know, level up games for our members is essentially Athlete Games, but we allow our members to participate because they're always leveling up. So
they love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my cool down today, I told them, that it's you versus you.
Yeah.
Go in with a plan and stick to your plan. Because when you're in that moment and you're seeing how other people are doing things, you start to second guess yourself. Like, oh, should I be doing it this way? And, that was some advice that I got. Just stick to your plan going in and stay with it. Don't change it up. And so I remember I had the workout where we had to do 20 chin-ups. And my goal was to do 10, 5, and 5.
Okay.
And then I was going to break apart my ground to sky presses because we had to do 20 and I was going to do 10 at a time because I knew 20 was going to burn my biceps out. And
right.
So I had a plan. Once I got my 10 in a row, I was like, I got this. Like, I got this. I know this. Did my 10 ground to sky presses, and there were a couple of people sitting over here. And they were like, come on, pick up your weights. Let's go. And I kind of looked at them. I'm like, no, I'm good. I have a plan.
I love that.
So it might have came off like
you literally stuck to it.
Yeah,
that's good. Though.
I knew exactly how many seconds I wanted to rest for, and so even though people were screaming at me like, "Go, you can do it," I was like, "No, I know what works for me."
Yeah.
And my team that came with me was cheering me on, and they're like, I can hear the videos after I competed, watching them, and they're like, she's got 10 seconds left. She's going to go in 10 seconds. Oh, God, it's 11 seconds. She hasn't gone yet. What's going on? Like, they knew my plan,
They knew your
too.
plan.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So let's draw that back in because I think as a trainer, you conduct focus meetings with members, right? Yeah. And it's so important for us to even have a plan, but then to stick to our own plan and not be distracted by others' impressions of our plan, how fast or slow others perceive our plan to be coming to fruition, and all of that. So do you use that a little bit when you're meeting with your members in those focus meetings?
I do. I tell them, this journey is no one but yours.
Yeah.
No one's going to tell you what to do. No one's going to watch how you're progressing. It's you. And that's all that really matters. And, once I got in my 40s, I kind of realized that it's not about what other people think about my journey. It's my journey.
Right.
And as long as I'm working towards my own goals, that's what's most important. And I tell some people are going to hit those goals sooner than other people are, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have hills, you're going to have valleys, and as long as you stay the course. And my trademark saying,
I love this.
When I close down a camp, I always say, keep doing you. And it kind of started in COVID.
Okay.
I actually started training prior to COVID. So a lot of my beginning training was through a screen.
Yeah.
And I just started talking to them about, guys, don't worry about what you're seeing on social media. Just do you. But just survive at this point. And it kind of stuck. So every time before we do 2 claps, I always say, keep doing you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me, today is also a little bit about legacy. Your dad created a legacy for you, and now you're creating a similar type of legacy. So, tell me what that means to you in regionals with your family there cheering you on, your legacy when you're at Athlete Games. You've got your crew there that are counting down the seconds for you, your kiddos. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Just the idea of leaving a legacy. It's just, I don't know. I'm not, I told my franchise partner this, I'm not somebody that's in a spotlight. I don't like being the center. I just like to fly under the radar. And so to think that I would actually leave a legacy for someone kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
But I always hope when somebody joins Burn, especially in Kenosha, I'm a huge community person. I want them to support each other. I want them to have those accountability people. And I want them to know that, I guess when their time is done and they've reached their journey and they're moving on in their life, that they had a trainer that knew who they were and cared about them, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. I tell them it's a whole package. This journey is not about body fat. It's not about muscle mass. It's about, mentally, are you okay? And emotionally, how are you doing? Are you comfortable with yourself as a person?
Yeah.
And I just want them to leave knowing wow, this woman changed my life. I would love that if I could change one person's life. That would be a success. And my kids the same way. I just, my husband and I work really hard, and we're not easy on our kids. We want to raise them to be strong, confident adults, you know, because the rest of the world, you guys have to deal with my kids. So I want to raise them to be good people.
Same.
You know, like, and so we're hard on them. We have high expectations. And I hope someday when they have their kids, they're going to see that. They're going to be like, you know what? I remember Mom made me push to get these things done. And because of that, I'm better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I know you may not want or even like intentionally leave legacy, but there's no definition of that, right?
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong in that. And I think I wouldn't imagine, would you say that your dad set out to create this legacy that you have of him?
Yeah.
So,
No.
you know, I think that
You're
it's
right.
just, it's an organic thing that you're doing. And it's pretty incredible to listen to. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we can kind of start wrapping it up just a little bit. So, you know, what would you leave us with? What's important to you? You talked a little bit at the end of camp, you know, you do you. Tell me a little bit more about that as we're leaving our audience today and the legacy that you're creating, the legacy that inspired you. You know, what's next? How are you doing you?
What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? Well, taking on the lead trainer position, there's been a lot of extra put on my plate. So I'm still trying to find the balance. And, you know, I think as moms and just leaders in general, we want to be perfect at everything. Yeah. You know, we do. We want to be perfect moms and perfect wives and perfect trainers and perfect leads. And, you know, that's just not realistic. Yeah. You know, so we have to be good at a lot of things, but be okay with saying no. You know, that's part of my thing right now is,
That's a good one.
Yeah, is, you know, saying no is saying yes.
Yeah.
And that stemmed back to when I was offered the lead position. I wasn't in a good mental place at that time. And I said no. And I said, you know, I understand we have to move on and find a lead trainer. And if that position is still there, that's fine, but I need to do what's right for me. Yeah. And everything fell into place and it worked out. Great. And I'm in a much better place now. But that's something I want people to know is, you know, you're going to go through ups and downs and you're going to have good times and you're going to have amazing camps and you're going to have camps that you feel like were your worst ones ever. Yeah. But it's the fact that we just keep going. You know, we just keep putting one foot in front of the next and keep trying to be better every day. You know, whether it's 1% better every day. Yeah. That's what we go for. And, you know, just realizing that we are good people. We want to do good things. And it's okay not to be perfect at everything. And coming from a type A personality, that's very hard for me. Yeah. But I feel like, you know, I say do you because I mean it. Yeah. You know, I don't want someone to come in and be somebody they're not. You know, I want you to come in. I want to know your real reason for being here. I want to know that why. Yeah. And I want to know if it's for physical reasons or mental reasons or emotional reasons, or maybe you just need 45 minutes away from your kids. Yeah. You know, whatever it is. Yeah. And that's why I say keep doing you, whatever that is, whatever that's going to bring you peace and joy. That's what I want you to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for that. And, you know, the discipline to say no is a discipline. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do.
Very much.
So it's awesome that you're tapping into that and that you're able to also instill that value in others, your team members. Yeah. I know it's probably really hard to say no to Shawnee. So
I'm getting better at it. Well, and I have a fabulous team. So if there's something that I feel like is overwhelming or I just don't have time to do it, they step up all the time. Yeah. Like I am blessed with the team I have at Kenosha. Yeah, that's awesome. They're amazing. You guys are amazing.
Amazing. Kenosha. We're here for it. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank
you.
It's been
really fun.
It has been really fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to do this more often. Are we going to see athlete games this year?
Not this year.
Okay.
I said
no.
I said
and that's
no.
okay.
And I said that when I finished on the floor.
Okay.
In Lake Norman last year. I said I'm retired. I'm retired.
Okay.
But I don't know. The team.
Are you training anybody? Is anybody from Kenosha going to be participating? Oh, that's a secret. All right. Well, I won't make you share. So, all right. Well, let's end camp like we always do. Okay. So I'm going to let you take us out.
All right, guys. So I always say in Kenosha, keep doing you. Give me 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.